Kia Soul has always had its fans, but in this modern age crammed full of SUVs, it didn't have that much to offer the public outside of its quirky looks. The exception to that, though, was the all-electric Soul, which, as well as being better to drive than all its petrol and diesel counterparts, had the added benefit of not producing any polluting emissions. In 2019, electric vehicles are rather in demand, and hot on the heels of their e-Niro SUV, Kia has given the little Soul a funky new look. The new Soul comes only in all-electric form. It takes the various electrical bits from the e-Niro and puts them in a smaller, cheaper and arguably more stylish package. But most impressively, it boasts a very decent range. Kia says that this model will do up to 280 miles on a single charge. We're getting our first look at it here in Germany in European spec, which will be slightly different to the models that come to the UK at the end of this year, beginning of next year. But as a bit of a taster, it comes with full LED headlights and a variety of funky paint colours. Rather unusually, music features heavily in the design of the Soul's interior. It's got lots of shapes and textures that Kia says are acoustic inspired. You can even opt for a sound mood lighting system that pulses lights around the cabin in time with the beats of the music. Groovy. Infotainment comes through this 10-inch touchscreen, which seems pretty easy to use. It'll also hook up with an app, so you can get remote diagnostic data about your car. These features include finding out how much energy you've got left, or presetting the air conditioning before you get into the car. The plastics used around the cabin don't exactly scream premium at you, but they are nicely screwed together. There's no bumps or rattles or anything like that as you drive along. There's also a really good amount of space, both up in the front and in the back. So in Europe, there are going to be two versions of the Soul EV with two different ranges and two levels of power. The standard is a 39.2 kilowatt-hour battery attached to a 100 kilowatt motor, which equals about 136 horsepower. That has a range of about 172 miles, which is still pretty reasonable. The long-range model, which is the one that's grabbing all the headlines, has a 64 kilowatt-hour battery and about 204 horsepower from the engine. That's the one I'm driving today, and it's the one that has a range of up to 280 miles. That's enough for the vast majority of journeys that most people will make day to day. Both versions of the battery can charge from about 20% to 80% in around 40 minutes using a 100 kilowatt fast charger. You sit quite high in the cockpit, which means that it's easy to look down and see what's going on around you, so visibility is pretty good. The ride is quite firm, but it's not to the levels of being uncomfortable. And it does mean that the handling is pretty peppy. Combine that with the engine, and it's actually quite engaging to drive. If you press the button down here for drive mode and put it into sport mode, it sharpens up the throttle even more and it becomes properly feisty. 0 to 62 comes up in 7.9 seconds, but it feels actually brisker than that. There's a lot of power and a lot of responsiveness wherever you are, and whatever speed you're doing, put your foot down and it'll accelerate pretty quickly. You can change the amount of energy you recoup when you're cruising or braking by flicking these paddles behind the steering wheel. There's also an auto function which works pretty well, which recognises when you're in a condition to recoup more braking energy, like right now, and automatically bumps it up. Prices for the Soul in the UK haven't yet been announced, but we'd expect them to be a bit cheaper than the e-Niro, which starts in the early 30,000s. It'll be a little while before the Soul EV touches down in the UK, so if you're interested in one, you will have to bide your time. The good news, though, is that based on our admittedly very short time with the car so far, it shows a lot of promise. It's nicely put together, it handles well, and it's got nippy performance and a very impressive range. We'll get our hands on it again when it comes to the UK, but in the meantime, rest assured that we think the tech underneath the Soul EV is worth waiting for. If you want to know more about the Soul EV, we have an in-depth written review at autotrader.co.uk. If you've liked this video, give us a thumbs up, comment below, let us know what you think of the car. Don't forget to subscribe, we've got loads of stuff to help you find your next car.